My personal project is learning how to hem with a sewing machine. I used a brand new machine and an old shirt that fits a bit bigger on me. I have an empty bobbin and a spool of white thread. I will be starting with putting the spool onto the spool pin. Then, wrap the thread around the thread guide. I will then pull the thread and guide the thread through the small hole in the bobbin. The bobbin will then be placed on the bobbin winder. Then turning on the machine and having the needle at its highest and the presser foot lifted, the bobbin will begin to be filled with thread after pressing down on the foot pedal. Hold the string above the bobbin while you begin to thread at first to keep it from slipping out. You can fill the bobbin with as much thread as you like or until it stops you. I then remove the bobbin from the bobbin winder. There's a certain way the bobbin has to be placed back into the machine, and it must look like a P as you do so, otherwise it will mess up the machine. What I'm doing now is placing the bobbin into the machine, removing the bobbin cover in the process. It must look like a P because there is a hook on the inside to catch the thread so that it does not get tangled into the dog feed. You cut it here. Placing the cover on top, you are now ready to begin the next process. Now taking the thread from the spool, bring it to the thread guide. It will be looping around the thread tension dial and up to the thread take-up lever and back down. The thread then will go into the needle bar thread guide. Using the needle threader, carefully bring it down. Then push back the needle threader lever until it stops. Then pass the thread in front of the needle. Make sure that the thread is under the hook that has come through the eye of the needle and the hook catches the thread. Pull the loop of thread and pass the end of it under the presser foot that has been lifted. There needs to be 10 centimeters or 4 inches of extra thread pulled out. For practice and to show, I cut some fabric. Nothing too big. It was then folded and pinned to create a rectangle shape. Having the setting at the original setting. To start setting up, I begin to check the machine. Make sure it's in a proper space for me to be able to sew. I then check the string to see if it's 10 centimeters or 4 inches. I then start to place the fabric under the presser foot and needle. I then lower the needle into the fabric to keep it in place, then the presser foot to make sure that it is lined up correctly. Once I decide to start the machine, I put my foot on the foot presser controller and begin sewing. With this newer model of sewing machine, it happens to move faster with less pressure on the foot pedal. Right here is when I went and back pedaled almost to do a stitch the same way I came from, so that the stitch stays in place. You do not have to do it for as long as I did. It's usually bad for machines, especially older machines, if you're going backwards for long periods of time. I did it because I'm testing out the new machine and I've never used it before. The turning of that dial is bringing up and down the needle. Once I have finished sewing, I pull the fabric behind the machine so that I can keep the string long and be able to cut it. This is what it looks like when there's back stitching or a double stitch to make sure it's locking in place and it's not just going to come out. For this one, I'm not going to be doing that much of a back stitch or any at all. What I'm doing is I'm just going to sew through it and leave it alone. You can see here the difference. It's a lot less thick and it's only one stitch through. Now that I'm turning it inside out, you can see what it looks like on the outside. When I pull it, you can see the string unthreading on the side that I didn't lock in or do second stitch compared to the other side. This is where I begin actually hemming a shirt. I have already gone through the process and I've already marked where I'm going to sew and pin the shirt where I need it to be. You will see in a moment. I am now going to start following the line that I have drawn on the shirt. From what it looks like I'm pushing it, but I'm not pushing the fabric, I'm merely guiding it. Around right here is where I get stuck and I accidentally mess up because the fabric started to scrunch up. Once I had fixed it, I got back to sewing. It took some time though, and really trying to figure out where I messed up. Once I got to the end here, I did a back stitch to lock it into place, and then I pulled it out. You don't want to be too aggressive with the machine because you could possibly damage something by either bending or breaking. Once I have inspected my own stitching, you will soon see what I have stitched together. This is the final product. This is the inside of the shirt. 2 inches have been taken in on each side. This is the outside of the shirt. You can see it fits much tighter and looks much better than it did before.